coming after work to join us in celebrating Swan Huntley's new book, I Want You More. Congratulations on the release. We're also regulars tonight, so you all know my typical spiel, but thank you again for being here. Swan is in conversation tonight with actress Hampshire, so we're very excited to have her tonight as well. Best known from Schitt's Creek. Tonight it'll be...
Sometimes it takes a minute.
So tonight it'll be about a 30-minute conversation between the two of them. We'll open it up to Q&A, and then we have plenty of books to buy and sign. So take it away and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to know, has anybody here read the book already? Okay, I just want to know my audience.
Thanks,
okay. So tell us, how did this book come about? Like, where'd the idea come from?
So the book is about a ghostwriter who goes to the home of a client in East Hampton. They fall for each other, things turn dangerous. And I got the original idea for this book when I was writing The Real Housewives, like a memoir for a Real Housewife of New York City. And she said to me during this process, "You're coming to my manor." And I was like, I would rather sleep in a box, for sure not going to the manor. But what would have happened if I had gone to the manor? Like, what could have transpired with me alone and this housewife? And so the result is this book. Yeah.
So you've never not only gone to a manor, you've never like slept over at, because you've ghostwritten a bunch of ghost-written books.
Yes.
for the people who don't know that you're the ghost, but
right.
You've never slept over?
Never. No.
Okay, so this is you imagining if you slept over all the things that you would do. If you've read this book, you know what I'm saying. Okay, so the protagonist, Zara, I know this isn't like a really educated question, but where did you get the name Zara from?
So my sister's name is Zara.
Oh.
You say Zara in an interesting, like Canadian way. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Zara or something.
Well, oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I say Toronto wrong.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I have a sister named Zara, and like, I guess I'm gonna use that name. And when I told my sister Zara, she was like, "Don't do that. Everyone's gonna name their kid Zara." And I was like, "Bro, it's a store. Like, everybody knows."
Yeah, that's
your
where
name.
I thought you took it from.
Right.
But yeah. So you're cooler than that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So ghostwriting, like when you've done this before, so writing the book, were you taking experiences that you've actually had ghostwrite? Like, is Jane the who is the character that you're commissioned? I keep saying you. I guess I'm asking, are you Zara? Zara?
And I mean, yes and no. Like, no, of course it's not me, but then yes, of course it is me. I think there's a theme in this book about, so Jane is a celebrity chef and she's very devoted to her image, and so far it's pristine. And then throughout the course of the book, like, some stuff happens that takes her down, basically. But she is so obsessed with her persona that she kind of loses herself in it. Like, I think she actually might not know the difference between who she is and who she's presenting. And I've found that to be true with some of the people who I work with. And it seems like kind of a natural thing that would arise, because you kind of have to be so devoted to this, to the persona that you're presenting to the public. So for instance, you know, something that's really called into question when you ghostwrite a book is the issue of self-awareness. Like, you write a book, maybe everybody around you, the agents and everybody's like, "Oh, exactly, you capture this person's voice exactly." But then the person might be like, "No, this is not me." Yeah. And then they might go change a bunch of stuff so that it can be more of an aspirational self that they may or may not truly believe they are.
Yeah, I would think that would happen. So, but did you put any of that in Jane that you took from some of the people, not naming names, but some of the people you've ghostwritten for? Did you take some of the things like, well, okay, for example, the gifting, like that's something that is such a, if you've ever been around anybody who is an influencer, or you're just constantly getting gifts that you give to other people, but it's kind of not really nice the way you give it to other people. Like, there's all this kind of insider stuff on that. So did you take a lot?
Yeah. Like, I think maybe a direct line is in the book where, somebody said to me like, "Hi, Sasa." Sav is my friend from high school. I know. Yeah, like the Instagram, like it's a racket, this Instagram thing. It's just a way to make a ton of money and not have to do a lot. And I learned a lot about like, for some reason I fall into this thing of writing, ghostwriting books for reality TV stars only, which is like a pretty specific subset of people. And so I've heard a lot about like the rise from pedestrian to reality TV star.
Yeah.
And there's like a learning curve to that, you know, where it's like, first you give away all your time for free. Multiple people have said this to me. And you're like, sure, I'm just so happy to be like in the limelight. And then you start realizing like, no, I should charge for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just going to promote whatever. I'm going to demand a certain amount of money.
Yeah. Because that's supposed to be your worth then. You're
Right.
like, that's what I'm worth, which I find interesting in the book. There's definitely a theme about personal brand throughout, and like that your brand can sometimes become more real than who you are. So where did that theme come about?
I mean, I think it was, just writing for these reality TV stars who I really felt were lost in their brands, you know? I think this is a thing that happens with a lot of people in technology too. I don't think this is only about reality TV stars. Like we're always, if you're on social media, you know, which I think probably most of us are, you're just always kind of promoting yourself.
Yeah. And also it's not like anyone who's ever used a filter is really promoting the not real.
I know.
You used a filter once, didn't you?
I was going to say that. Okay, I actually have like some hangups about this because I'm like, I don't like seeing it when things are so filtered that you're like, this is not real at all.
Yeah.
But then like if the lighting is bad, and I mean, it's just so easy to swipe one time and then suddenly the Paris filter.
Yeah, the Paris filter.
Everybody knows the Paris filter. That's why it's the first
but, like,
option.
You grow a tolerance. You get used to it. Like, because if everybody else is doing it, then normal you looks bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But should I be perpetuating this, or should I just be like, no, I should just look
I
bad?
actually can't see filter, like when there's a certain beyond Paris, like the Facetune. When people, Facetune.
I don't really get that. It's like Photoshop.
You kind of like Photoshop. I can't see the people's faces anymore because they become so blurred.
All the same.
Yeah,
right.
all the same. Okay, I'm moving on from Instagram.
Okay.
So luck is a major theme in this book. And the epigraph is from Branch Rickey, and it says, luck is the residue of design. So why was luck? You laughed at the way I said epigraph.
Well,
I said it
no.
wrong.
I'm laughing at like that you're bringing this up because nobody has brought this up in any Q&A until like last week. My friend Liz brought it up in New York.
Because it's like, it's right at the front.
It's at the very
So
front.
even if you don't read the whole book, it's like right
You're
there.
like, there's a question.
There's a question.
So first I'll tell you where I got the quote,
Yeah.
which I bought this book of quotes in PB. I grew up in San Diego, so like Pacific Beach, whatever. I just bought this like random book of quotes. And for some reason I've kept it and I've referred to it a lot over the years. It's like in categories. And I like covered it. Do you remember those book covers that were like, it was kind of like cloth book covers. I covered it in a cloth book cover.
But it's stretchy?
It's stretchy and it's blue and green and it's like really ugly, but I haven't taken it off. So I actually don't even know what the cover of this book looks like. But I just was like, oh, I need a quote for the book. I'll open the book and see. This is where I got all my
did
quotes.
You just open it like one of those? Oh, this quote? Like,
I think it was like that. Like it was one of the first things I looked at. And then I looked at some other options and then I was like, no, that was the best one. And I don't really know that I have like a straight answer to this question. I think I wonder about luck a lot. Like, what does it mean to be lucky? I think there's this whole thing with manifesting where that's kind of dangerous, where people are like, just manifest your best life. And if you think it hard enough, like you will get it. But
I didn't think Jane was like that. What I liked about Jane was, I remember my piano teacher always said to me, like, luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
Right.
And you can sleep when you're dead. And those two things go through my mind all the time. But where I found Jane, like, she did work hard at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't just luck. like as
Right.
yeah.
So it is kind of what your piano teacher said. And I
Yeah.
do think that that's true. That's what Oprah says too.
Oh, well.
But it's, I know.
But what do you think this, because I was trying to think, like, luck is the residue of design. What does that mean to you?
I mean, I think it's really what you just said, that it's the preparedness meets the moment.
Okay. You have had like 3 books come out in within 3 weeks.
2.
That's not what my notes say. Within 3 weeks. Okay. You've had a lot of books come out in a short period of time.
Yeah.
A, do all your other writer friends hate you? And B, how do you do this? What's your process?
Well, the other book that came out is it's an illustrated book. It's over there on the table. It's called You're Grounded, an anti-self-help book to calm you the fuck down. And it's like interactive. And so it's very different from a novel. The words are really big. It features my illustrations. It's meant to, you go through it in an hour.
I did all the activities in it. You draw a lot of trees, but it really, that sounds like it's not good. When I just said you draw a lot of trees, they actually changed my life, these trees, because one of the trees I drew had a hole in it. And I'm like, then I found out if you have a hole in the tree that you draw, it means something bad about your childhood. Anyways, that's nothing to do with your book. Your book was very helpful.
Unearthing your trauma with you. Yeah. So the process for writing those books is like really different from writing a novel, obviously. Those books are just really fun and easy. And there's a lot of white space, because that's where I say draw a tree.
But like this book, I kind of want to know what your process is. Like, you come up with the idea and then you write it, or does your publisher say you need to write a book now?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, I came up with the idea and then I wrote an outline. It took me a minute to figure out, like, oh, you should probably be writing like an outline, like have like some sort of plan for what you're writing, because when I was in grad school, we really didn't talk about plot in my grad school. We were talking about like white space and shit, which was really not that useful.
Wait, did you go to grad school for writing?
Yeah.
Oh,
like the white space on the page. It was just very like.
So they talked about not writing.
Well,
so just the white space. Okay.
Yeah. It was very kind of like haughty and not practical. It was impractical. And there's also this famous quote in fiction writing. It's like, just, it's like you're driving in the fog in the dark and you can only see 3 feet ahead of you. Like, so you don't really need to know where you're going. You're just going to figure it out as you drive. So I think it was like unconsciously abiding by that. But then I wrote some books and now they're still on my computer. And then I was like, oh, I should like make an outline and ask myself some basic questions about what this book is and like what's the time container of the book. That's the thing a lot of people don't think about. Like, what's the full amount of time that you're dealing with, and then you can go back through and like separate it according to that. So yes, then I make an outline, and sometimes I put it on the wall.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, go on.
And then I cross off the plot points as I move through them, which is like that's all I need.
Yeah, like a list.
Yeah.
But wait, it's really interesting that so you were taught in writing that 3 feet ahead of you is kind of cool, that you can just like let the story tell you what it is. But in at least screenwriting, like you're supposed to have an outline and follow this map. And did you find that was this the first time you did like a treatment for something and had like a map?
No, it was with my first published novel. So that's
okay.
what allowed me, I think, to finally get published, is I made a plan.
Oh, okay. But do you have a preference of?
Yeah, the other thing did not work.
Oh, it didn't work at all. Okay.
And I find that like there's so much discovery anyway. Like, I don't write like a Hollywood level outline where every beat is accounted for. It's kind of just a general, like, these are the major plot points. These are like the big moments I'm going to hit. But within that, there's a lot of discovery and driving in the fog with the lights on.
Okay. So this is not on my list of questions, but so when I was reading the book, there was this point where I knew they were going to do stuff together, sex stuff. And did you know, were you like surprised by when that happened, or like when it started to get, when Jane I don't want to ruin. Oh, did I ruin the book? Did I just
No.
ruin the book?
There's
Okay.
sex in the book.
But like because it kind of teased me. I felt like I know this is coming. This is gonna happen. This has to happen. Then it didn't happen for a bit. And I'm like, this has to happen, and then it happened. Was that planned out, or were you letting Jane like make you want her?
It's not me.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's not you. It's not you.
No, I planned it. I wanted this to really I wanted this book to have a lot of tension in it, and I think this is one of the sources from which we derive tension. And I also see this book as a metaphor for all my bad relationships, which are like when you're in like a toxic relationship, it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn, you know? It's not like, oh, this is a toxic relationship. Chill, like I'm going to continue. It's like you're the frog boiling in the water. Suddenly you're like, oh, I'm dying.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to feel like that.
It did. I found it really interesting, the stuff about living in scarcity and living in abundance, and the eating thing that like Jane, I feel like I shouldn't say what happens in the book, but then I have these questions for you. Should I save them for home?
No. No, this is a good one.
So where did that come from? That
I mean, honestly, I think I'm like working out a bunch of unconscious stuff in my novels. I don't even know fully what it is until later. Mm-hmm. So for a true answer, you might have to ask me again in a few years. But I think this is like the luck thing, just something I wonder a lot about. And that's connected to the scarcity, abundant mindset. Like, how much does this have to do with the lives that we manifest? Like, how much are we responsible for? Because luck does play a part in things. Like, we're not in control of everything, but then of course we're in control of how we think of everything.
But I found that really interesting in terms of just, again, that influencer, somebody who becomes famous in a way that at first, when people are giving you stuff or they invite you into a room and they're like, take anything you want. And you're like taking everything because you can't believe it's free. It's not free. But like you learn that kind of thing. And then when you don't, it's a weird thing. The more famous you get, the more money you have, the more people give you stuff that you don't need anymore. Yeah. And then so you can live in this kind of world of like, I don't need as much, I don't want as much. But when things aren't going well, you do live in a scarce world.
It's such a funny paradox. Okay, wait, do people send you stuff to promote on Instagram all the time?
Yeah. I mean, people send me stuff, not the greatest stuff.
Like, what's an example?
But I mean, a lot of like products and stuff you get at first. Yeah, the stuff, like people just send stuff. And if I usually will do things like if I think a book is good, then I'll put it on my Instagram or Nutella, like that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I just found it a really weird thing because that's not a normal thing for anyone to go into a place and then be like, here are sunglasses and here, take this and a trip to Tahiti. But there's a price to it at the end.
Right.
Anyways, I'm just talking about. Am I Jane?
Has Nutella sent you anything? No.
Are you Zara?
Maybe. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Do I have anyone? Oh yeah. What are you working on now?
Oh, thank you so much for asking.
Oh, okay.
I am working on, I just finished a draft of a memoir. Honestly, I've been super depressed for the last few months working on this memoir. I reread all my childhood journals starting from the age of 9 to now. Not sure if I recommend this or not. I have not remembered things correctly. I turned in a draft. Now I feel better. And the memoir is called How to Escape Yourself or Die Trying, an Addict in a Really Long Bike Ride. And it's about my trip on the Camino in Spain, which is a 500-mile pilgrimage, one version of it anyway, from like the south of France to the corner of Spain. And about my addiction history. I think there are a lot of sobriety memoirs, and a lot of them follow the same kind of arc where it's like 95% of the pages are devoted to like, I was wasted and it was kind of glamorous and we did coke and whatever. And then I got sober and it's chill. you know, and then bye. And like, that's really not how it's
Yeah. Then I
worked
got
for me.
sober and it was like everything was so bad because real life.
Yeah. And then I got sober and realized, oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm insane. So I'm hoping to paint like a broader picture of addiction.
Okay, this brings up another question though. Because you ghostwrite other people's memoirs, when you're writing your own memoir, are you aware that you have to be the most honest in the way that, like, maybe your subjects, you know, how you were saying before, that they sometimes see themselves in a more nice light. Are you rigorous with yourself that you're being honest?
I am, and it's hard. This has been really humbling. Like, writing a novel seems kind of easy compared to writing this memoir, because I can say like, yeah, it's me, or no, it's not me. I don't have to cop to anything. Even though of course you know. But with the nonfiction, like, all my guards go up immediately. I'm like, oh, what is this person going to think about this? And I don't want to hurt this person. And you know, like, my mom really doesn't want to be in this memoir at all. She's requested to not be in it.
That's a big thing. You have mom issues.
A lot of them. That's why.
That's a big part of your book.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Live streaming?
Mom, are you?
No.
No, I think she's not.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry, Mom, if you are. But yeah, that's hard.
Can you change her name? You know,
No.
Baby Reindeer? Baby Reindeer? They're suing
this woman who lived in my house. Oh yeah, the Baby Reindeer thing. I heard something about that. Okay.
You heard something about that?
Yeah, what's going on? Okay.
Do you guys not know about Baby Reindeer? Okay, yeah, everyone but you knows. So it's a true story, and the woman is suing Netflix.
Oh, because they said it wasn't true?
Well, they said, yeah, well, it was true. It wasn't true. Certain things weren't true. But anyways, your mom might sue you, is what I'm saying.
Well, you know, my mom's a lawyer.
Oh my God, really?
So sometimes when she wants to express her distaste, she gets a little like legal with the language. It's intimidating.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a zillion questions about ghostwriting and stuff like that, but I'm gonna let other people ask questions. Would anybody like to ask a question? Don't be shy.
It sounds like you're extremely prolific, and I'm always interested in process and like what times people write, and like how do you do this?
Yeah, this is what I would always ask writers at things like this. I am a morning person. I don't like the night. I don't think we should be awake after 10 p.m. I just read that the pancreas like doesn't secrete something after 10 p.m. Safa, what am I talking about? I don't know. But yeah, my like graph of the day is just a down sloping line. So in the morning, I'm really chirpy, and then it's just like downhill from there. So I like to really harness the morning energy. I heard once that how you structure a day is how you structure your life, how you prioritize. You know, that's another word.
Oof.
Yeah, what did everybody do
ADHD.
first this morning?
That's my, there's a lot of, I painted, I did some painting.
I can see evidence.
Yeah. Sorry, how you structure a day is how you structure your life.
Yeah, there's the
But
pull
so
quote.
how do you structure that day though? Like from how many hours in the morning?
I mean, well, first of all, I turn my phone off at night, like off. And then in the morning, I don't turn it on again until I've like stretched and journaled. And then hopefully, sometimes I don't turn it on for a while. It depends on like what I have to do. But if I'm writing a book, I write for a couple hours, like until I just feel like I really have to get up and move. I think moving around a lot is a big part of my process. Like I start in the chair like this, and then I kind of like turn into a worm. And I'm like, okay, this is time to get up, worm, you know, when I'm like too slouchy. So yeah, I walk around a lot, take a lot of showers. Like these are where new ideas arise, I've learned. And when I'm working on a rough draft, usually what I do is if I can, I take some time out and I just say no to a lot of stuff. And I just really write it in a concentrated period of time because it's so much to remember writing a novel. And I think starting energy is a specific energy that's not like any other energy. And I like to take it and go as far as I can. Because if I'm like, oh, this is great, and then I go away, I'm less excited about it. When I come back, my mind is somewhere else. And it just takes like 2 weeks to get back into it if I leave it because I've forgotten
Good
what
advice. That really
Oh,
is.
thanks.
Starting energy is like first 2 days of a diet. Like, oh,
Yeah.
then no.
No.
But yeah, that's really, sorry, I took your question. I thank you for asking that question because that's really interesting. I know that sounds sarcastic. I'm being serious.
No, you're-
But anyways, yes.
First of all, you just sound very healthy. Like the bathing, the boundaries, the lack of phone.
Oh my God,
So
thanks.
awesome. But piggybacking on the prolific question, you've written 5, 6 books now. Do you feel like you get better? Like you've learned? Do you have a favorite? Do you have like a darling out of all of them? Everyone has a favorite child, even if they don't admit it. But can you?
Novel wise, this is my best novel. Like by the time I get to the very end of the process, you know, when you write a book, you have to read it like 7 million times. By the end, you're like, oh my God, I don't care where the comma is. I can't look at this anymore. And I really feel by that point that somebody else wrote the book because I'm like so far into something else. And so sort of objectively, I can tell you that when I read this, I was like, this is a well-paced book. That's what and I think I've gotten more concise as time has gone on. There's just not a lot of fat in this book. I think it has really good momentum.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it takes me long to read anything, and I read it fast. Couldn't put it down, some might say.
Thank you.
First of all, I listened to it and it was great.
Oh,
It
good.
was really, and it seemed like it just flowed out. There are other great books that you get the idea that the person had been working really, really hard on it for a long period of time. And this just felt like a story that unfolded so naturally. And what I really loved about it was that it captured so many things that are in the news today, like cancel culture, toxic celebrity. How much were you taking from like the news of the day and a certain sort of scandals that we all know about? Did you take that and put that into the book?
I think certainly the whole thing about cancel culture, I mean, that's just so popular now. But as I said before, I really see this as like a highly dramatized metaphor for all my bad relationships. So I was thinking, how did I feel in those relationships and how can I externalize those feelings to like the most dramatic degree? And yeah, but for sure, the social media, like the whole atmosphere of the world is for sure in this book.
That's interesting. That's about your relationships again, because when I was like this much through, I was like, this is giving me Misery vibes, like the movie Misery, like
yeah,
you're gonna be, and then it was giving me single like female vibes.
Okay.
And then those are your relationships. It's rough. For you.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Thank you for telling me.
Yay. Any other questions?
Yes. Oh,
What's the book about? Your relationships? What's the storyline about?
Oh, the storyline of this book is about a ghostwriter who goes to the home of a celebrity chef client in East Hampton, and they fall for each other and things turn dangerous, is my trailer speech.
That was my bad though. That should have been my first question, and I didn't ask you that question.
Next time.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Is it Bethany Frankel?
Oh, no. Dorinda Medley.
Oh!
What's that?
We missed stuff.
Dorinda Medley.
I love her.
That's yeah. I know it sounds like a company.
Yeah, me neither. Because didn't they say this is live streaming?
I didn't sign an NDA. Like it's not a secret.
That's amazing.
That's interesting that you don't sign an NDA when you do a. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
So when you're going to ghostwrite a book and they've chosen you, do you do what Zara did where you just like, they just talk to you, and then you go away and write it?
You know, I think I've gotten a lot of jobs because my name is Swan. And I think I only got the Dorinda job. She's like, Swan, that sounds good.
Oh.
You know? But it was a bummer when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was like flamingo, pigeon, etc.
Yeah.
You remember. Yeah. And now it's good.
Wow.
Wait, so was this at Blue Swan Manor?
That was the manor. She wanted me to go and watch her do her photo shoot for her book,
Okay.
which I didn't feel like was a necessary participant. Sava.
Going back to how this compares to your other novels, I love all of yours, but this one in particular, I felt like like reading it, I just heard you. Not necessarily in Zara's character, but like your voice was so present in it. And do you think that is because it's your fifth or whatever? I can't even keep track of the numbers, but do you think it's because it's you develop that more, or you're more comfortable using your own voice? Because I heard a lot of you in it, like your sense of humor, or do you just feel like it's maybe because Zara's character is similar to you?
Yeah, I wonder about that. I don't know. I haven't gotten that feedback yet. That's interesting.
I agree, though.
Really?
That's why I keep thinking Zara is you. But
Oh.
it might be the ghostwriter thing, but also, yeah, it does.
Well, going back, like I think my first two novels were really not about me, and then they also feature straight people as the protagonists, which is like some queer people. I remember were like, why would you put straight people in here? And I was kind of like, I get to do whatever I want. Like, this is fiction, asshole.
Not with that hair.
Not with this hair. I was, you know what? This has never happened to me, but I'm going to just tell you all. I was like softly gay bashed in the Hamptons the other day. And after that happened, I was like, my books are going to be so fucking gay now. Like, this is like why this is important. But then I wrote a book set in our hometown that was about me, but I think about a younger version of me. So this is certainly about like an experience, like my experience now, closer to my experience now. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Oh, at the beginning, Zara's dad dies. What brought that?
My dad died.
Okay, sorry.
But whenever this comes up in a bookstore, I'm glad you guys are laughing, because usually people are like, and like I read the beginning of this book and it just suppresses everybody. But yeah, that really happened, and a lot of the exact things happened. Like, my dad, when he was dying, he just started saying random stuff when he was on morphine, just out of nowhere. We're like all trying to be there, having like the Hallmark movie moment of like, that, and he was like, grass-fed beef. Like, it's just like so funny. So that's in there. And I did that because I wanted the character to be really vulnerable before she meets Jane, which I was before I entered into the relationship that I entered into after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions over here?
Oh, hi.
Yeah, I'm curious how you got into ghostwriting, and then when you did, like how you balanced writing other people's books with your own books.
Are you looking to be a ghostwriter?
Not really, but I guess I've thought about it.
Yeah. How did I do it? I had an agent who worked at Verve, which is primarily a Hollywood agency, and they had a book department that like only contained her for a while. So she just had all these celebrity clients who needed books. And so she was like, I guess Dorinda was the first one. She was like, do you want to write, talk to Dorinda about writing her book? And then I've gotten the other books through other agents at talent agencies. And how do I balance it? I mean, I'm pretty fast. So I'm not working on my book at the same time as their books usually.
Do you feel like you're writing in their, like you're acting and writing in their voice when you do that?
I think that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I made Zara a ghostwriter, because as these two fall for each other, I mean, I think when you fall for somebody, you kind of fall into them. You sort of lose yourself. That's what this book is about in large part. And when you're a ghostwriter, you're doing the same thing. You're like falling into somebody else's identity. You're constantly making choices. Like, what would this person say right now? You're not going to call them all the time, even though Dorinda called me all the time. All the time. It's like, are we dating? She's like, you never answer your phone.
Did she say she wanted you to fall in love with her? Did anybody say that when you're writing their book about?
No.
Okay. It's what Jane says.
I know. I'm thinking back. I forgot what I was saying, but I think I finished the point.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It was about ghost,
Should I
how to
answer?
become a ghostwriter and balancing.
okay. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
Do you ever consider like an adaptation, anything derivative of any of your novels or this one?
Would I consider adapting them?
Like a film, creating a film out of one of these?
Yes.
Okay.
I think a lot of people have asked me what happens next after they read this. So originally I was like, oh, this could easily be a movie. It's just very open and shut case for a movie. But I think there's enough left open that it could also easily be a TV show. So talking to some people, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I could definitely.
Yeah.
Or a TV show, but yeah.
What about a sequel where she continues
You know
on
what?
and
It's
becomes
funny.
that person?
I just said this to Zibby, my publisher, the other day. I don't know. Maybe. Could be fun.
It's left open, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was hoping, just saying.
That there would be a sequel?
And I was
Really?
like, oh, well, maybe.
Good to know.
Wait, Zippy is your publisher?
Yeah, who also, this is her bookstore.
Okay.
Blue is her favorite color. Even the employee, are you guys like
In blue?
mandated to wear blue?
Oh, that's so.
She does? Are you guys lying? Like I feel.
That's so funny. Any other questions?
I know your process, you said you usually write in the morning. Is there a difference in how you like structure your book or outline for maybe like a nonfiction versus fiction?
For this nonfiction book that I've just written, it's my first nonfiction book. So a lot of it has existed on my computer for many years in various forms. Like it was a lot of like gathering information and putting it together and then like sort of massaging it. And I think the main thing was figuring out like how to combine the story of the Camino with the addiction story. So being like, okay, this should be like the nesting story, and then I'm going to place the addiction story within that. So it's sort of like a structure hack in that way. And then it's chronological.
Yes.
The books that you ghostwrite, are they fiction or nonfiction?
They're all like the nonfiction memoirs of reality TV stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're not hiring you to write fiction under those people's names?
No, they're just books about their lives.
That would be amazing, though.
No, that does happen sometimes.
Wait, really?
People are like, I have the best idea. A lot of the times it's an apocalyptic idea for some reason. And they're like, will you write this? You know?
So it
I have the
seems
best
like
idea.
they're a writer?
Yes. And they pay you.
Wow. That seems so crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're a writer for hire. There's a deal for your services, kind of like, are you hired for a job or do you, I don't know how that works.
For ghostwriting, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I've written 3 books. I haven't done one for a while.
okay.
Yeah.
So they approach you and say, would you write my book for me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always like a contest, you know, you got to be like, hey, how's it going? I want the job. Then you have to be chosen. And then you write the book. But it's ghostwriting is just inherently impossible because you're not a mind reader. You know, you're never going to write exactly what's in somebody's head. A lot of people don't even know what's in their head, too. That's the real issue. So ideally, you just have a client who's like, I don't write. I don't want to write. And I'm just going to trust you. It's a lot to ask, you know, too, to trust this stranger. But I mean, I had one client who was just so great. Like, she was just like, she has like I forget where she's from now, Midwestern accent. She was like, you're my magic bullet, Swan. And she was awesome. I wrote her book and she was like, this is great, you know? So it's very dependent on the person's psychology.
But then you don't, because I have a friend who does ghostwriting, and she was ghostwriting this book, and I really wanted to know who it was about, she's not allowed to say that
Oh.
she ghost wrote the book, but you are like, your name is on the books that you ghost written.
Well, they're required to thank you in the end, in the acknowledgments. So if you pick up a book by a celebrity, you're like, maybe this person didn't write the book, you can find out in the acknowledgments.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, but like, it's just, you could also be their friend. Like, thanks, Swan.
Well, you would have to do Google
Okay. I
investigative
would do that.
journalist. You
Yeah, I would do
Google
that.
dive. Yeah, I know you would.
Do they do publicity of those books under their name? Do they like?
Oh yeah, it's all their name on the cover.
And then do they
And they
talk
never
about their
mention the
process?
ghostwriter. No, a lot of people think that these celebrities write the books themselves.
Right.
Do-
Do they read them?
Sometimes they don't. It's really funny. A lot of people who don't read books want a book. It's very popular.
But when they go on tour with their book and like people are like, what was your process in writing? They're like, I'm a morning person. I'm like, oh,
I actually don't know.
well, they must, because people must ask them these kind of questions because suddenly they're a writer.
I don't know that these are the people getting booked at bookstores, though. You know what I mean? I don't think they're doing traditional book tours a lot of the time. I think they're just promoting on social media. There's a big thing about pre-orders when you're this type of person. You just want to get it to your fans.
They're not on Oprah.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
But then
that's
these-
funny.
Yeah,
If they start doing tours on stuff that they haven't read, it's about themselves.
right. Yeah. There's a book.
There's a book.
There's a
Yeah.
book. Somebody write that book.
That's a half hour.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just gonna send that topic, but then it's really not real. It's just like in this book, right? Jane just gave some sanitized version that she wanted everybody to know. So even when you're ghostwriting, you're really writing what they want everybody to know, whether or not it's real or not. Like, do you feel any sort of not obligation, but interest in like fact checking or like finding out the real version, or you're just like getting paid for what
Don't care at all. I mean, with Dorinda, I wrote this book and everyone was like, oh, this is her. And then she was like, this is not me. And then she changed a bunch of stuff. So now it's, just like a,
So it's just a writer for hire, like basically like you're telling the story they want to tell,
Yeah.
whether it's true or not, like it could be sanitized or
whatever. Yeah.
It's kind of like you know how AI can write like you. I just write this thing like Emily Hampshire, and I thought, no way, it could do this, but it sounded like me. But I was
Really?
like, I can't believe I sound like that, but I do sound like that, and I was really embarrassed of the way I sounded. That was accurate. That the AI did.
Is it based on things that you've said? Like
It's based on interviews and
Oh, I
stuff
see.
like that. So it's based on interviews where if they were writing something now, the amount I've said like and all that.
Oh.
And oh my God. And it's all in there in print. Doesn't sound as good anywhere.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Anyways, so AI could.
AI can do this now. Yeah. They don't need me anymore.
We have to have another question after that because I talked about AI.
Alright, I was interested as a writer, this gets very dark. Was that difficult for you as it got darker and darker psychologically to have to sort of sit with all that?
That's a great question. I don't think that, I don't know that it did. I mean, and I'm also comparing this to the experience of writing this memoir, which really did get dark because it's so directly personal. Fiction, there's just a remove where it feels like it's a way to deal with stuff at like a kind of a safe remove, I don't write to heal myself, but that's sort of what ends up happening anyway, just subconsciously. I don't like to think a lot about like, where did this idea come from? I don't like to be very analytical. I'm just like, okay, whatever's coming out, that's what's meant to come out and that's it. And it ends up being like therapy.
Do you feel like there's, in looking back on all your books that weren't ghostwriting books, that were personally yours, do you feel like there's a theme that has emerged that you didn't even mean to put in there, but like every book is, what is it?
Okay, so this was pointed out to me. and I've heard many writers say, "Oh, I'm just writing the same book over and over."
Mhm.
Mine is always about the protagonist meets a sketchy character who changes their life for the worse. Basically it.
Oh my
I also am
God.
obsessed with teeth.
Oh.
Like I go out of my way, it seems to describe people's teeth a lot. I can trace this back to my childhood, but I won't get detailed with that here. And what else? Oh, I'm also like consistently interested in like the dark underbelly of places that are really beautiful. Like I grew up in a place that was really beautiful, and I feel like that place was saying like, you're fine. You don't have any problems, you know? So I'm always like, oh, what's really going on?
I do find that interesting though, because I think, and not consciously, but if I look back on most of the things I do, it's always the same story of like, it was always in you all along. You just had to find it for yourself. It's The Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
Yeah. But your theme with all of them is bad and sad.
I know.
Yeah. Sad. Anyone else? Any other questions?
When you're kind of writing characters and situations, are there any is there any inspiration that comes from any kind of like pop culture, music, or going to a place? Like where do you kind of pull ideas from or moods or?
My favorite hobby is eavesdropping, so I can't work in public because I get way too invested in the storylines around me. I'm like, why is she eating those chips? Why? Like, what are they talking about? So I like to work at home and in silence.
So no character, side character inspired by a person eating chips loudly or something.
I mean, everything ends up being like a medley of people that I can't even always quite trace.
Anybody else?
How's rewriting do you do?
It's a really good question. It depends. It depends on the project. I mean, usually things are not like vastly different from the draft that I submit. I will say though that with this book, the editorial like support and attention that I received at Zibby Books, I'll just plug Zibby Books while we're here, has been a lot more than I received at like Doubleday and Simon & Schuster. And so I did more rewriting on this book because of that. There were just like more, the passes were more in depth, and I was really grateful for that.
Does your editor, like you have an editor and they give you notes and stuff? Or do they actually edit it?
They give you notes. At this point in the process, this has taken me a while to figure out, but I'm now like, you are not allowed to rewrite my sentences, period. Because rewriting sentences is a style issue. It's not anything else. So I'm like, you can write in the margins, but you cannot rewrite my sentences because there's like a rhythm that I hear that other people don't hear. And I'm like, how can you not, you don't hear the music.
And because it's not about it's usually like a note that you can take and put it in through your style. Yeah, that's a really true thing.
Yeah.
So did you map this whole out? Like, did you know how it was going to end straight from the beginning, or did that come to you somewhere, in the writing process? Because it seems to me it was such a character shift in what we had led to believe she was like the entire the entire time, and then all of a sudden she becomes a lot smarter and wilier, and like, where did that come from? So was that something that was like, oh, maybe I should just make her this way as you're going, or was this from the beginning you knew like this is what's going to be the trajectory?
Okay, so this is good because it relates to the rewriting question actually, and I always knew that Zara was the type of person who we learn that she is in the end. And for those of you who hadn't read it, there's like a big twist in the end that kind of turns everything we've read upside down, which is why I think there should be maybe a sequel. I always knew that was in her, but I didn't write the last like 2 pages when things really get turned upside down until I had an editorial conversation about this. And it was like, oh, this should be more overt at the end. And I've had that experience. I had that experience with my second book too, The Goddesses, where I knew this thing about the character, but I didn't realize that I was going to reveal it until I got there.
And so this wasn't the plan wasn't to be overt about it, more subtle, but it was still going to happen in your mind, or?
It was still going to happen, but like basically maybe without the epilogue, you know, some of the stuff that we get in the epilogue. Yeah, I was going to leave it blurrier.
Because usually when I can see these things coming and I didn't, because it was just so out of character, you know, so I was just curious how that kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw it coming.
You did?
Saw it coming. Well, no, but but when it came, I was like, yeah. Yeah.
Toward the end, but like the addition part at the end.
Yeah.
Was like, well, maybe it happened like this, you know.
Right.
That,
Yeah. Good. Glad you didn't see it
yeah,
coming.
it was good. No, it was
I
good.
didn't really see it coming, but I was like, it tracks though, in retrospect.
Right.
How much time do you spend rereading your novel as you're writing it? Because I feel like I write only short stories right now, but I spend a lot of time. It feels sort of masturbatory. I'm always like reading my own work like over and over again. Do you just like read the novel again and again?
So the first 50 pages or so, I'm very careful and I reread those a lot because I never want to do a page one rewrite. So those are like when you make the foundational choices that are going to play out over the course of the book, that needs to be like really set well, I think. And then after that, it always feels to me like, oh, the train kind of like hinges on the tracks and then it kind of starts going by itself and it gets easier and easier. So when I'm really in it, what I do is I write every night, like I'll print out the pages and then I'll read it hard copy before I go to bed. So it's like in my mind. Then I'm like working while I'm sleeping, I like to think. And then I go back over it. And then I stop doing that when I hit 50 pages or so. And I just kind of like let it go.
I do that with scripts, like before, I'll read it before bed so that it like does work in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Anybody else?
Thank you
Yeah,
so
those
much
were
for coming.
Good questions. Those were a lot of good questions.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we have plenty of books up front to buy, and then we'll get Swan up here signing off.
Oh, you're so sweet for coming. I'm so happy. Thank you.
What's that?